Before a product can cross a border, it needs permission. Not a buyer, not a price tag, permission. Issued by governments, backed by law, and sometimes it's denied or accepted for reasons other than the actual product. This is what import and export policy actually is. And standing here, well, sitting here, surrounded by goods that have made it from Taiwan to London, I want to understand exactly how. This is an example of an accepted product, and this is what will you get for it. When a government wants to control what enters their market, they have several tools. The most visible one is probably tariffs, as seen by Donald Trump in not so recent news. A tariff is set on an import, which taxes them to raise their price to protect domestic goods. This is probably the most visible, but sometimes the most invisible ones are actually more powerful. Sanitary and phytosanitary measures known as SPS regulations set the biological and chemical standards a product must meet. Phytosanitary certificates issued by the exporting country's own government declaring the product safe. The UK's Food Standards Agency and the Animal and Plant Health Agencies both play a role in deciding what agricultural goods can enter this market and what conditions. They aren't arbitrary, they actually exist for legitimate reasons, but they are also unmistakably a form of control. To better understand what's at stake, I wanted to tell you guys of an example that actually affected some of the farmers today behind these stalls. In February 2021, mainland China banned imports of Taiwanese pineapples, then wax apples, then grouper fish, then citrus fruits. The official justification each time was sanitary and phytosanitary concerns. Pests detected, residue levels exceeded, but Taiwan filed 14 formal requests for scientific documentation between March of 2021 and March of 2022. Mainland China did not respond to a single one. But here's what makes that significant. Japan found the same insects in Taiwanese pineapple shipments during the exact same period. However, Japan's response was fumigation at the border. China's was a total ban. The WTO's SPS agreement exists precisely to prevent this, to ensure that health and safety justifications are based on evidence and not politics. But enforcement is slow, and in the meantime, farmers lose markets overnight. Taiwan's own Mainland Affairs Council called it what it was: economic coercion, trade policy used as a political lever. This matters for understanding why this exhibition exists. Tainan is one of Taiwan's most important agricultural regions. It is where the Erwen mangoes were first cultivated in Taiwan, where pomelos have been grown for centuries, and where wax apples and citrus, milkfish and rice products directly targeted by China's bans have their roots. For years, up to 70% of Taiwan's exported fruit was all to China, but when those markets closed without any warning, farmers needed alternatives, and they needed it fast. Taiwan's Ministry of Agriculture reported that in 2023, agricultural exports to the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands each grew by over 10%. The pivot towards Europe is very deliberate, a policy that is a response to political vulnerability. So what I'm looking at here is not just an exhibition, it's part of a strategic reorientation. But entering the UK isn't a matter of just showing up. Post-Brexit, after 2020, the UK now operates its own independent import regime, separate from the EU. Agricultural goods are classified based on risk level, with high-risk products subject to export health certificates, phytosanitary documentation, and physical inspection at the border. For an exporter from Taiwan, that means understanding a regulatory framework that changed significantly after 2020, after Brexit, and that continues to evolve. The cost of compliance isn't just financial, it requires knowledge, relationships, and time. And smaller producers, crowds from Tainan, who may grow exceptional products, often lack the infrastructures to meet those requirements alone. This is why government support matters. Exhibitions like this one don't happen by accident. They are a visible part of a policy effort to open and sustain these new channels. This was actually planned by the Tainan city government, and I think I'm really thankful for that because it opens an entire new channel, an entire new route for Tainan farmers to export their goods into here. Import and export operates on two levels simultaneously. On the surface level, it's technical. Certificates, classifications, residue thresholds. Underneath, it's actually political. Decisions about which relationships you want to cultivate, which markets to depend on, and how exposed a country is willing to be. Taiwan learned that lesson at a significant cost to individual farming communities. The response has been to treat market diversification not as a commercial preference, but as an economic security. The UK market and the European market, more broadly, now matters not just as a destination for goods, but as a buffer against dependency. Policy shapes what enters a market, but also shapes what a country wants to build, which relationships it wants to foster, which doors it wants to open before it needs to open them. These products here, the ones you see on the shelf, they've passed through years and years of inspections until they're here in London. And the fact that they're here in an exhibition in front of buyers, in and of itself, it is a product of policy, not luck, not expansion, strategy.